Joining us now is Mandela Barnes. He is running for lieutenant governor in Wisconsin. Mandela, great to have you here.
Yeah, good to have you here. And I want to first say happy Mandela Day to everybody.
Is it actually Mandela Day?
It is Mandela Day. It would have been his 100th birthday today.
Wow, how is that for a nice timing on our part, which I didn't realize. Okay, so yes, indeed, happy Mandela Day in a couple of different ways. And I'm glad to see Bush wasn't right.
That's right.
You know the famous quote where Bush goes, "Saddam killed all the Mandelas."
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about your race a little bit. Who's in Democratic primary with you? Let's start then we'll talk about the Republicans.
Yep, so I'm running for lieutenant governor. There's only one other person in the primary. He's a guy who he hasn't lived in Wisconsin for quite some time. Moved back, I think, last year. Came from the Clorox company, and that's the only competition I have in the primary. He's a self-funder. He's put about $250,000 of his own money into the race so far.
I was about to say, let me guess. He's got a lot of money.
A little bit of money.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, all right. God bless the Clorox company. Apparently, he's done well. Okay. How about you, Mandela? Let's talk about your background a little bit. What have you done in the past, and what drives you to run for lieutenant governor?
Yep, so I'm a former state representative. Served a couple of terms in the assembly here in Wisconsin. Was the ranking Democrat on the Committee on Corrections. As you may or may not know, we have the highest black male incarceration rate in the state of Wisconsin at 13%. That's about twice the national average. And work on criminal justice reform is actually what compelled me to run for a seat in the legislature, or a large part of it. I did some organizing for a group called MICA, which is Milwaukee Inner City Congregations Allied for Hope. It's a group of interfaith social justice organizations who line up to address issues of jobs and economic development, education, immigration reform, and treatment instead of prison. And so I ran for a seat in the legislature, gave up my seat in the House to challenge my sitting state senator, was not successful in that race, and went on to work for a group to help provide research and policy support to progressive state legislators across the country.
So, in Milwaukee, you had one of the worst sheriffs in the whole country, Sheriff Clark. So did you ever have legal, political run-ins with him?
Oh, we had run-ins all the time. I actually dressed like him in 2016 for Halloween. So
that's kind of scary.
I got some great pictures out of it. But yeah, no, we had a lot of there was a lot of tension between my office and his, unfortunately, with the way he handled jail situations, people dying in his facilities. He was just not great for law enforcement at all. Wasn't great for pushing our community forward, and wasn't a great representative of what leadership should be like, especially coming from the African American community.
Yeah, a picture just came out of Sheriff Clark with a Russian agent as they had welcomed people from the NRA to Russia. Must be so proud. Well, I mean, I guess it's fitting since he ran some gulags in Milwaukee. For those of you who don't know, I mean, many people died in those prisons, and one from thirst.
One from thirst. Yeah, one from thirst. You're shackling pregnant women. It was a total disaster. Yeah, like I had no place in that position at all.
So the fact that you made criminal justice reform a priority obviously is very fitting and very important, certainly across the country, but most especially in your state, given what Sheriff Clark and others have done. So who's the current incumbent in that race?
So the incumbent is Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Clayfish, and in the general election, you actually run as a ticket, so she rises or falls with Scott Walker. And I think this is a year that we can absolutely beat Scott Walker, but we can't run the same tired campaigns that are just anti-Scott Walker. We actually have to talk about our plan to bring opportunity to the state of Wisconsin. That's through equity in healthcare, expanding our Badger Care program so that we can have healthcare for all. It means environmental protection. It means education funding. It means that we have free 2-year college. It means that we have debt-free higher education. We should be able to refinance our student loan debt for those who still have it. And we should be able to borrow money at the same rate that big banks. These are all issues that our current governor has ignored for a very long time.
So what would it mean to expand, is it Badger Care in Wisconsin?
Yeah, Badger Care is our Medicaid program in the state of Wisconsin. And there was legislation introduced in the last session to create a public option for Badger Care. While the federal, obviously we would all want a Medicaid for all program. We would all love to have that, but while the federal government drag their feet, I think it's time for states to step up and do that work.
Okay, and then I want to go back to the mechanics a little bit of the elections, because you won your state assembly seat when you were just 25. Just
yes.
Curious, how'd you do that?
It was grassroots organizing. It was knocking on way more doors than the incumbent knocked on. And it was, there were some real issues that we brought up, like predatory lending. That was huge. There was an incumbent who didn't vote to cap the interest rate on payday loans. That's a big deal, especially in the district that I represented. And even the more wealthy parts of the district understood how catastrophic that predatory lending had been on the city and on this state as a whole. And we talked about that. We talked about it a lot. We also talked about public education, because while our schools weren't places funding a lot of unaccountable schools.
Yeah, and that does work. Now, it's harder to pull off on a state-wide level because states are much, much larger than the state assembly district seats, obviously. So what are you doing to adjust for this larger election?
So we've recruited volunteers from all across the state. People are responding to a bold, progressive message, and that's what we're delivering. People are excited. They're excited for change. They're excited for the fact that we can beat Scott Walker, but also the fact that we can be effective after Election Day, because that's been a huge problem. Not getting the job done once we have the power to do it. And so we put together a large volunteer network across the state. We have people knocking on doors, people making phone calls, and we just want to double down on that, triple down on that, because this is how we win. It goes back to just very traditional ways of campaigning. Aside from going on social media, we actually just put out a video yesterday to introduce ourselves, to introduce to people across the state and across the country, for those who would like to pay attention to it, which many are. So
along those lines, let's go back to your Democratic opponent for a second, Mr. Clorox. I see here that his top donor gave money to the Republicans too.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Why? So what's the situation there? I don't know if you know who the donor is, and why is he giving the Republicans and to this Democrat?
Well, not just any Republicans. We're talking about Paul Ryan. We're talking about Mitt Romney. We're talking about Devin Nunes, who this guy has given money to. He's given Republicans over $500,000 in, I don't want to say the last 10 years. Why he's giving to my primary opponent, I have no idea, but that's what we're up against.
Okay, one more thing I wanted to ask you about, which is what in the world is
$20,000 is the max donation as well. We should talk about that.
What is that?
It's $20,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
for one person.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what in the world's going on in Wisconsin? Because Wisconsin used to be a really blue state. I mean, you had super progressive senators like Russ Feingold from Wisconsin, but now you can't seem to defeat Scott Walker. Trump won Wisconsin, and obviously a devastating blow in the Electoral College. He thinks that Reagan couldn't win it. He's gotten that wrong 3 times. Yeah. But anyway, seriously, what happened in the state of Wisconsin?
Wisconsin is still a very progressive state. The voters in this state just need something to believe in. They need to know that people are actually going to go out there and fight for them. And I don't think that our message could have been a little bit stronger in previous election cycles. And I think we've learned that mistake, and I think we know that we can get back to our rich, proud, progressive tradition, but it's going to come through ideas, energy, and organizing. We actually have to inspire the base. We can't just say we're not Walker, we're not Republicans. We have to let people know, again, that there is a reason, there's a benefit to voting for Democrats. People have had 8 years to understand that Scott Walker has been no friend to them unless they're in the highest income brackets. Our middle class is falling quicker than most other states in the country. Income inequality is at its highest point in the state of Wisconsin since the Great Depression. We're in real trouble, but people aren't just going to vote for someone just because they have a D behind their name. Yeah,
that's right. You got to actually make a case that you're going to help them. And if you're a progressive, you actually can. I want to give everybody the websites, mandelabarnes.com. You could volunteer at mandelabarnes.com/volunteer or donate at actblue.com/donate/mandelabarnes. And I can't think of a better day to help Mandela than on Mandela Day. So Mandela Barnes, thank you for joining us on this auspicious day.
Yeah, thank you for having me.